Alrighty. I don't think even being... No, you guys can't hear me. Okay, great. So we got that working. We need the chat popped out. We need zoomed in. Maybe like... 200%. We're going to go to the top. We're going to put it in the bottom. I'm going to put this on the top. And I think we are cruising right now. Alrighty. Oh. Ka-chow. Good. Alright, hold on. Good morning. Why is it? Good morning, chili dogs. What you focus on? Gross. Feed them horses. We're going to get into another throwing day here. We're going to be throwing... I'm going to start doing this thing where, last year was all about making the same form. And through repetition, you discover new facets of the work. I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do for this year. I'm not really sure exactly what that's looking like. I'm trying to figure it out. I've been doing the water whistles. I've been making a lot of these like weird cups. I've been doing some of these jar vase things. A lot of using discard as form, and so that's been a big focus. But I think I want to start getting into patterns again. I think the repetition has been pretty transformative for my own process. And so what we're going to be doing more often is taking, half a chunk of clay, so like half a bag, and just throwing off the hump. I think throwing off the hump is awesome. So there's going to be a lot more trimming involved these days, but throwing off the hump, not only I think it edits really nice, right, but I also think the idea of you coming to this lump and its discard is these objects. I know that kind of makes sense for like any bit of clay, right? You get on the wheel and you make something. So it's like the discard of that event. But I really think that personally, something's a little bit different when you look at this large chunk and you have the idea of this idea of the chunk and things coming off of it, rather than just the chunk is it's separate. I don't really know if that makes sense to like non-ceramic people. I'll have to revitalize what I'm trying to say there a little bit. But what I'm trying to say is there's something that's different than throwing off the hump than just making it, right? Like the actual mindset behind it's different, right? And so, anyway, I'm going to get right into that. I'll see you guys over there in a second. Ka-chow. I think we're going to be playing some music today, too. So, we haven't done that in a little bit. So let's see. I hope that's not too loud for us, guys. But I think we're going to do this. I listened to this yesterday and I thought it was just a really good playlist. I was just sitting on my bed and thinking about what I want to make. I had some ideas on some of the water whistle things, but we're going to keep on cruising here. Zoom. Okay. So when you first come to a big chunk like this, our goal, number one, is we gotta get this thing attached. And so you can see I'm just pushing kind of like this 45 and down and in. And you want to get it to be as close to a little hill as possible. That's going to help you out, trust me, way more than what you would think. Another thing about throwing off the hump is our goal right now is not really to center the clay. I know that seems like weird, right? But when you're throwing off the hump, you don't need to center the hardest part, which is centering that bottom, right? So you can see right here, that's all I'm trying to do. And just get it pretty close to center and just start moving material. You gotta warm the material up. Think of the material as like your body before you go for a run, right? If you just go right into the run, you ever had that problem where your like jugular starts like aching when you're going for a run? Maybe I'm a little bit out of season, so maybe that's not for everybody, but again, we're just slowly walking and bringing this up. Camera A. Okay. I'll turn this on. Wheel. So again, this hand is creeping in. I'm slowly grasping. I'm using my hip to push forward. And if things start getting a little bit off, don't worry, just keep on going up. You don't really need to think about it too much, right? As long as you're moving that clay up and you're keeping consistent with your body, that stuff will eventually work its way out. Okay. Oh, I forgot to put on I gotta change one thing. Sorry guys, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I didn't have when I switched to this music, I forgot to put the chat back up. So if you said anything in chat, sorry, I didn't hear what you said. There we go. Okay. So we're back. And another thing when you're throwing off the hump that you want to keep in mind is that we're not really looking to throw all the way up here, right? We actually want to throw a little bit further down. That's going to help us out. Because if this gets too narrow, when you start doing a pole, the whole tower is going to tilt over. So you want it to be thick enough for what you're trying to make. And so I usually think kind of something that looks more like a dot, like the candy, the dots, the dot candy. Is that even how you even call it? I think they're just called dots. Does that make sense? Okay. I have a weird little bubble undulation at this bottom part, so I'm just going to try to work that out. Okay. Bring this down one more time. And I think this is what we're going to want to start with. So you see how it's kind of like this dot shape here? And I'm just working with this stuff right on top. So bring this up. And again, you can see that we're not totally centered, and that's part of the cool thing about this style of making, is you don't really need to be centered. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need to be centered. All right. We're gonna move this. I have a little bin that I'm gonna be putting all the stuff I make in. Just gonna wipe this off quick. And get all these kind of like hard bits off of there. Okay. We're back. Desk. Mini wheel. I think that's my face cam. Yeah, there we go. All right, so you can see right here, we're just gonna be bringing this down right here. take this in. And you see how we separated this off to be its own little thing? Here. Zoom. There we go. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here when I'm working on this. Space. Down. And we're trying to just set up what we want this to look like. And so I gotta start getting locked in here. I gotta start focusing on what I'm doing. First, I'm trying to make that base a little bit wider. It's not wide enough. I'm gonna catch the edge so I can decide, okay, I want it to be the bottom to end right about there. I'm gonna look on the inside of the object. I'm looking around and I'm feeling for if I like how even that interior is, right? Sometimes if it's not really nice and even, I won't even start pulling up the wall until I get that all nice and where I want it to be. Because once we start raising up this wall, it becomes significantly harder to do the pulls that we want. So we're going to start bringing this up. Okay, so we have the general vessel made. So it's a little cylinder now. So now we get to have fun with it. Now we get to decide, okay, we have this form, so what's next, you know? So I'm going to start by bringing this out a little bit towards the base. I'm picking a spot right underneath where that corner is, slowly walking up to that corner edge, and then I'm going to start bringing this out. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go up from here. So you see how that works? So now it's all about shaping and deciding how we want this form to look. I have a little bit of a weird undulation towards the bottom of the vessel, so I'm going to use my 2 interior fingers to again meet its opposition on the outside here on this other hand and start bringing this out wide. We're going to slowly walk that up. We're actually going to keep trying to bring this in just a little bit, right? So you can see it's wanting to get a little bit off center, but we're not going to worry too much. There we go. Alright. I'm going to round off this top rim. I'm going to take the inside of my little knife tool here, and you're going to see I'm going to bring this right up underneath. You see how I'm kind of pushing that clay down, creating a little thick spot of clay. So now when I cut off the clay here, the vessel from the top of the clay, it's way easier for me to just lift it up when it's a little bit thicker and not distorting that bottom part of the vessel. So actually I should make a little groove too. You don't have to do this. I just think that sometimes having that extra little groove that's already started the process can help me line up where this wire needs to go. So stick it right underneath this edge, right through the middle. Right through the middle. So I stop. I'm going to right up underneath this bottom and start lifting up off the vessel into my little container. Lift this up off there. And again, we're going to just start cruising away. Camera A. Space. Okay. Again, we'll bring this up. Down. Over. Thumb down. And start hammering out this bottom. Ah, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to start bringing this out wide. So we're going to zoom in here. Zoom. Zoom. Okay. So it's going to look weird, but where the pressure is actually touching is on my palm of my hand, and my thumb's on the inside pushing against kind of this top part of my palm, the balls of my hand here. I don't even know what you would call this. Top of the palm. Maybe any medical people might know. I'm not sure. But let me know if you do know. But I'm going to be pushing, watch, pushing into, you see how that thumb works? So watch, push this up, and then I just slowly, I'm going to lift this up. So once you have that tension and almost like a little undercut hooked, it's all you need to do is lift your hands up. I'm not changing the distance between here, maybe slightly to adjust for if it's getting a little bit thinner. I want to loosen up so it doesn't rip off, right? But once you get that little chunk that's above it that's kind of sticking out, that's all you got to do is lift your hand up. I think a lot of times people are spending a little bit too much time fussing around with their tension when they should just be focusing on that lift. Get locked, then lift. The 2 L's, locked and lift. If you're a video game player, you know, locked and loaded, you know, you're locked and lift in pottery. So find this bump, and we're just slowly walking this up. And we noticed that we had some thick clay towards the bottom, so we're going to have to do something there. So again, maybe some water on the inside here. Camera B. Okay. Right down underneath the bottom edge here. And do you see how distorted this top is getting? Look how wobbly I just made that. We're not trying to focus on what that bottom is doing. Okay, guys? We're really just trying to focus on where are our fingers right now? Where is that tension? How thick is that clay? Oh, it's getting a little bit thin. Okay, I'm going to go up a little bit. You find that bump, the finger on the inside is a little bit above that finger on the exterior. We're going to bring this out a little bit more. We're going to go over, so we're going to transition our finger from below to above, and then we're going to do the same exact thing on the interior to create a new bump and a new little, almost like a bell shape there, right? But a new little bump to start from. And so really when you start thinking about clay is something that you're carving, right? And where the distance is between those fingers stops feeling less loose. All of a sudden it starts feeling a little bit more tight, and it really does feel like carving away something. And I kind of like the idea, like how beautiful is the idea that you don't throw on the wheel, you carve your objects out of clay. If nobody's written in a book yet about pottery, they definitely should. Alright, so now I'm going to round off this top. We're going to get a nice little bevel. I always bevel the edges of my cups. Great. Okay. And again, we're going right underneath this bottom section here. And so you can see I'm at a 45-degree angle. And my pressure is in towards the center and down, right? So as long as you're going in towards the center and down, you're going to create enough thickness on the bottom to get this really working for you. So here, let's swap over to camera A. Thank you. Zoom. Alrighty. So right underneath this bottom edge, you can see we're creating a little groove, again for our wire tool to kind of snake on the inside there. And you just need to get it halfway as you're spinning. So I'm right underneath, halfway, I stop, and I might not even be fully halfway, but as soon as I wipe off my hands, and I have my fingers dry here, as long as I just right underneath and I start lifting up, twisting is going to do the rest of the work for me. I'm going to set that down, and again, we have that bottom a little bit thicker because we're throwing out the hump, and so we'll be able to trim to have a really nice tall foot on the bottom of our objects. And again, Now we start again with a blank canvas. I'm going to start pushing our hand in. Bring this up a little bit. And so you can see the back of my hand here hooks in and causes this to become the new chunk that we're going to start throwing with. Again, thumb in, thumb kind of pushing up against that palm, thumb out, getting and carving out that width, and now thumb up. And just through that move, and this is just a guide hand, all of a sudden we have our cylinder now, right? So you can see we have a nice little cylinder here. Okay. Camera B. No. There we go. It's kind of weird. Okay. So we're down. And the first thing that we're really trying to do is we're trying to figure out, okay, we have the bottom defined. We need to find a corner of our vessel. Because right now, the bottom of our vessel, here, it's very rounded and it's even kind of lumpy. It's a point and then it's down and then it's up. What we want to do is we want to push down, push out. And I'm going to have a finger on the outside of the clay. So as I'm pushing down and out to this corner here, I have this outside sitting still until they eventually just slowly I can feel them through the clay. That's when I know I have a nice corner defined, right? Why is it important to get a corner, right? Because a lot of people will say, no, you don't want that corner. I want to make something rounded on the bottom. Well, then leave yourself some more clay on the bottom. I would say that usually you're better off making that corner so you can really pull all the height and the weight out of the object, right? You'd be surprised on how much taller your pots would get is if you just spent some extra time hammering down that corner and just start throwing off that corner rather than keeping it rounded. You can make it rounded later. So again, I'm bringing it right to this corner, have this little bump, and watch me just slowly take this little bump out. We say hello to the bump. The bump is our friend. We'll slow down as we get to this rim here. And you can see how once you get that bump, you really just take that out, right? You're not really worrying too much about where it's going. You're just taking that out to the top. When it gets to that top rim, it's almost interesting to think about it like maybe like peeling, right? Have you ever opened an artichoke before? If you ever opened an artichoke, you would see that there's this really beautiful purple flower on the inside of the artichoke that my first time eating an artichoke, I was very surprised about. Well, after you find that artichoke and you open that up, you realize that there's all this stuff, like it's almost like you're peeling, right? So this little bump here, so I'm peeling the flesh off the artichoke until I get to the top and I remove those little flanges or those petals, and then all of a sudden now it opens up, right? And so you're literally discarding that clay almost, or the movement or the weight of the clay through the pole. And once it gets to this rim, it's off of the fruit. Does that make sense? Is that a little bit too like pottery hippie? Maybe it is. I think the nature of me just bringing up an artichoke already sent it down that path. Okay. We're a little bit thinner now because I was trying to exaggerate those little bumps. And so, since we're a little bit thinner, we're going to spend some more time. And we'll try to use this wooden tool as a shaping tool. I normally think of this tool as a cutting tool, right? But a lot of people use this as a shaping tool. And to them I would say, come on, it's a cutting tool. But every once in a while you gotta admit that there's alternative ways to making, and it's still valid to use this as a shaping tool. But I still will tell all my students that it is, in fact, a cutting tool. I'm gonna round off this rim here. Get some of this clay on our finger. There we go. Camera A. Zoom. Okay. Again, we're going to go right underneath where that bottom of that vessel starts. And we're in and down with this tool, remember? And you'll see that sometimes it will really cause this vessel to get a little wobbly. You don't really worry about it, really, because there's so much clay down there that when you go to trim, you can really fix so much of the object's inconsistencies. And as long as this was even before, when you go to trim, you're going to trim it, it's going to sit upside down on top of this edge. So as long as this is flat and even, you're cooking, you know? You don't even need to worry. Okay, right underneath this bottom edge. Wipe our hands. We're halfway through. And again, we can be a little bit more aggressive at the bottom. Look how it just lifts right off. We're going to set this right there. Great. Okay. And again, I've seen some people when they do this, they have a little string on their finger and they pull it all the way through. I don't know what it is, but I've always found the best is to just leave that there. I know it sounds weird, but it's what works for me. It makes things a lot simpler. And I've found that it's a little bit, I don't know, it's just maybe I'm doing it wrong and I get good at doing it wrong, but I feel like I'm going to continue to do it that way. Sometimes you got to trust what feels most natural to the way your body moves, right? So I have a thin spot right here. You can even see that it's starting to rip and tear. I gotta push this down. And I'm gonna push that back up. And so you can see how that, just pushing in, caused that clay to go up, right? And right here, all I'm going to do is push this hand in so you can see how it just creates this little notch here, right? Push that hand in, thumb down, thumb out, and thumb up. Camera B. Wheel. Down to this bottom edge, slowly walking this clay upwards. Yeah. We go down one more time. Zoom. So again, do you see how I got it all off center there? That's a good spot for us to be, actually, because it doesn't matter. It's a good reminder that what really matters is what your fingertips are doing on the bottom of the vessel. You slowly walk that bump that you're creating all the way up till you get to the top of this vessel, where then all those inconsistencies are released, right? A little bit of water. Color this up one more time. There we go. Down to this bottom one more time. We're thinking about shape here, right? So we're pushing our finger in the middle to get a re-flatten and even out our bottom of our vessel here. We're going to be out a little bit. We're going to stop there. We're going to come over. So watch as these fingers from the outside. Here, I'll give you a better view. Camera B. Camera B. Maybe this isn't a better view. Zoom. Okay. My finger on the outside is coming out and around and above the finger on the inside. Then my finger on the inside is coming out, in, and over the finger on the outside to give me a double bump, right? And we're slowly lifting this up. All the way to the top edge here. Okay. Some more water. And you might say, why on earth would I need this little bump? You're right, you don't really need that bump. It's just something to do along the way, right? I think of every single object as almost like its little video game story, right? And sometimes you get little bumps in the road, right? Or sometimes you get little surprises that you weren't planning for. And so I've always thought that a lot of times throwing off the hump is really laying into those little sprinkles of randomness that just occur. And you can see how that kicks it off center a little bit, right? But again, as long as that top was nice and even, we're not too worried about that. I should have done one more thing, but we're not going to mess with it now. Okay. Halfway through. Done. Hands, you gotta wipe them dry, right? If they're wet, the clay's gonna slide. And we're right where that thickness is. We're gonna start spinning, and look at that, pop that right off the wheel. And if any distortion happens, it happens where it was really thick, right? So you do have some material to kind of squish and squash that you can remove later. But it's really nice to get that off of the wheel, right? Or else you'd be spending so much time and you need to get a bunch of bats that you just leave them on. I normally do that, but when you're throwing off the hump, it's part of the process of doing it like this, right? Okay, so we're at a point now where we might be gathering a little bit too much water on the bottom. So let's just get all this material off, right? We want to make sure that we're not creating this weird slurry too much on the bottom. So we're going to slowly bring this up. Take a breath. There you go. Camera A. Bring this up one more time. Again, you find this little bump at that bottom there. And that's what you're going to bring up. And you can see, did you see how my thumbs kind of lifted up a little bit as I started pushing that clay up? Is because it's not going to be even on the top. And so you really got to make sure you have something to kind of catch that wobble. And in this case, it was my thumbs, and that's how you're going to keep it relatively straight, right? And so why am I doing this? Is because as I'm working with this mound of clay, water is pulling towards this bottom and towards the top where I'm working, so it's going to get a little bit softer. So we got to work that clay, we got to mix it up almost, so it's all pretty even here, right? And you can see I'm tilting that forward just a little bit. I'm trying to catch where that wobble is. I'm still trying to bring that down. You see that works, right? It's not very hard. I'm not like, trust me, I'm not jacked, you know. I'm a pretty noodly guy. And so you really just need to focus on where am I pushing, right? And when I am pushing with minimal pressure, what's moving? Move your hands around until it starts moving, right? So it's a little bit of experimentation because everybody works a little bit differently, right? Their bodies work a little bit differently. Zoom. Okay. There we go. Close this. Down. Throwing off the hump helps prevents break in the flow of concentration. Yo, that's such a good point, but for me, my concentration is like always split because I'm streaming right now and I'm trying to make sure I'm getting like you guys aren't looking at like a spoon in the corner while I'm trying to throw something, you know? So, but I think that if you try to throw off the hump, this is how I'd recommend everybody starts on the wheel, is just throw off the hump. I'm not really thinking about what I want these things to look like, right? I'm just trying to get through this clay, right? And I think that's something that everybody can really benefit from when they're first starting out. Stop thinking about, you know, the cup that you're going to make for grandma, right? Even though that might be your intention. Start thinking about the material and what it's allowing you to do. I think once you start making that transition, you start to get a lot more, you start to feel and have conversations with the material rather than it always feeling like you come to the wheel and it feels like it's your first time each time, right? I'm going to go out. I'm going to go up a little bit. Just do a simple cup this time. And again, not a shaping tool, a cutting tool. Look at the material I just took off, right? Okay. Go right underneath this bottom. Again, in and down at a 45. So you're going to pop that up. Go right underneath. Create a little groove for the wire to sit underneath. Got that wire. Right underneath this bottom edge. Through. Okay. Fingers are dry. Right underneath. And you just lift right up. And I think something that helped me out when I was first starting to throw off the hump and removing objects too is when you're lifting, you're not doing this. Do you see how much your fingers are moving? You're lifting with your elbows up, right? Don't really think about what's going on here. If you felt like that you have it sticking and it's a little bit tactile, literally just lift your elbows from your elbows up. Down, out, up. Okay. Camera B. Space. And again, we're not trying to remove all that thickness in one pull, so let's just do a slight pull and just slowly work the material down to a nice thickness, right? Don't do it all in one go, right? Again, finger towards the bottom. Finger slowly going out, and finger slowly coming up. And see, this is how I would make bowls too. Whenever I make a bowl, you just do one more pull out, right? But I always start with a cylinder first. And so once you get that cylinder, you can really start bringing that out. Okay. Again, I'm right towards this bottom. And the last thing I want to do here is I just want to make sure I have the bottom the way I want. On this T-bowl here. Nice and rounded on the bottom. Okay. I'm going to create a little bit of a bevel on this edge. I always think for drinking vessels, this is a nice little addition. I'm going to get a little wooden shaving tool here. Take off the rest of that liquid material. I think we're in a good spot. And even though this one's a little bit larger than the ones that we were working on before, zoom, you're still going to do the same exact thing to remove it. So again, right here on this bottom edge, I'm just cutting in and down at 45. Separated enough off that base. Get some water right underneath here. Hit that edge. Nice. Go back down to the bottom. Right underneath where it cut. Halfway through. Dry your fingers off. And there should be enough thickness down there that once you go to remove this, you're not going to distort your vessel nearly at all. Again, down right into our I have a little box next to me over there, and what that's doing is it's just holding all the pieces I take off the hump, and so that way I can slow dry them a little bit, and I can kind of keep an eye on them. Something that you'll notice whenever you're trying to make a bunch of things, right? What's going to help you out as much is always go through the idea of how can I touch these objects as least as possible? That will always speed you up no matter what, right? Are you moving two of them at the same time? Are you working on a couple, right? Whatever is keeping you from going back and forth as little as possible is going to speed your process up by a large magnitude, especially once you start making a bunch of things all together, right? Like if you're making 6 cups, you can work in a pretty inefficient way, but if you're making 60 and you're only helping yourself by kind of learning some little tricks. And so, anyway, we're going down, out. Camera B. So you got your little cylinder. And you're going to find the edge. So again, we're in the middle, slowly bringing our interior fingers to the corner. I'm starting underneath the corner. Now I'm pushing that clay up into the corner. And then I'm going to finish off the pole. You can bring this in just a little bit. So the hump is kind of like a tool and a separate place at the same time. And a separate piece at the same time. Yeah, I guess that's actually a good way to think. You'll see once I get to be low enough for this throwing off the hump and I can't make any more objects, figure out a way that I can use kind of the last little discard to start a different throwing process. So when you say a tool, I actually agree with you almost 100%, right? Okay. Right underneath, again, going out, and we'll do over, 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 and up. And so you can see how just something like that, zoom, can create nice little grooves, right? So the stop and the pause and the slight undulation of the fingers on the inside can all of a sudden reflect in a pattern on the outside, right? If you're around for a lot of my trees that I was making, this is part of the inspiration for how the trees function. It's a pattern with when you're pulling up that you're deciding to keep consistent, and somehow that reflects in some exterior design. Okay. So that's a lot. That's gonna be a really tall foot on this one, which I think personally will look kind of pretty on this style of cup. Anyway, let's get this one off. Somebody says, howdy, chili dogs. Let's say howdy back. Howdy back to you, chili dog. Okay. Fingers dried. Push in just a little bit, and you can see how just a lift right up. And sometimes if you twist it a little bit, it's going to help you out. And you're just going to go right next to us here. Get our little, I don't even know, wet box. There we go. And we set that inside our wet box. Take the wire off, and we're going to keep on cruising away. So something I'll notice right now is my water is getting a little bit thick. So before I start this next one, I'm going to get refresh on the water here. You can see all this stuff kind of just separates off. When you're doing it off the hump, you'll start to notice that water will build up. And so you got to be careful not to fold. If you fold over two slick surfaces, it's going to slip and peel off really easily. So you're trying not to do that, okay? Again, bring this up. And we have this just really awkward little soft bubbly spot on the inside here. You can see that getting reflected out. So again, we're going to start focusing on bringing this whole thing up. You're going to see exactly where that is here, right? So I'll leave you with that for a second. So you can see where those problem areas are. So I always thought that bringing that up to the top, back down, it's a nice way to sort of work on those spots, right? The thinner it is, you can kind of locate where exactly that rip or that tear is on the inside of that clay, or maybe an air pocket. It's really up to you. I don't know what you gotta solve, you know? But here we go. Again, back down. When I tried throwing off the hump, I always had trouble cutting the base straight. Always had a nasty angle on it. Yes, that's when I really think that, I'll get there on this next one. I'll show you exactly, because some of them are uneven, right? So some of it's a little bit unavoidable, but as long as that top part is even, when you go to trim it, and you trim a little bit softer, you can re-level everything back out, right? But something that may help, I'll kind of go through that here in a second. In the meantime, let's get this down, out, and up. Maybe we'll do like I don't know, let's just see. I'm thinking like a double bump, like an Andrea Dennison double bump would look kind of nice. Right underneath this edge here. So before you start the double bump, you want to get your thickness dialed in, right? It's going to be a little bit wider towards the bottom, so that's all good. Again, pushing up and in, out to the side here. Okay, here we go. up and out. And Andrea Dennison, I always feel like, does a pretty pronounced bottom one, and then the top one is a little bit looser. Right, it's not as pronounced. So maybe it's not round enough on this top here. Where's my little, my wooden tool? I'll reshape that, but she always does a pretty pronounced bottom on her cups. I mean pronounced, I mean like this, it's a high contrast from base to belly. And then on the second bump here, it's really a lot more like not as drastic. She does a bevel on her cups too, but they're pretty steep bevels. I don't have enough material on that top there. But I feel like this isn't really that close. I always thought they kind of look like flower blossoms. Anyway, okay, so here we go. Grab this tool right here. I'm right at this bottom edge. I got a sponge down here too, and I'm pushing in and down at a 45-degree angle. Here, I gotta fix one thing on this top. I shouldn't have touched it actually once I did that. But either way, I'm going to take this. Now I have enough thickness there. I'm going to create a little groove. Then I'm going to slide my needle tool through. So I've created a little path, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap my fingers around my wire. And what I'm focusing on is, does it fit on both sides of my fingers, like this side and this side? Does both sides fit underneath that little groove that I made? If so, then I'm going to start going in to that middle. Once I get to the middle, I can stop. Right? And so maybe it's another thing where you might want to just try to slow down a little bit. You'd be surprised on how much easier it is to pull off, throwing off the hump, and removing your pots. Okay. So we gotta do some small ones now. Raise up. I want to put on another song, so 1 second. I feel like the music cut off a while ago and I just haven't turned it back on. Sorry about that, guys. I think it also covers and masks the clicking of my wheel a little bit. Thank you. I'll try that technique next time I throw off the hump. Yeah, of course. Okay. We're back with the music. We got some tunage now. New Year, same wheel. That's pretty funny. I actually want to... Oh, yeah. You know, I actually want to get a new wheel. I've been thinking about getting... I don't really like the Shimpo colors and the way it looks, right? But the Shimpo Whisper, I was thinking about getting. Just so then it doesn't make a single sound, so then I can kind of really hone in and get some nice high quality audio, right? And make everything a little bit more sensitive right now. I think if my microphone was more sensitive, you hear more of that, the whining of my wheel. But I also think an all black out wheel would be cool too. There's a, Brent Wheels has this all black wheel that I just think is, I don't know, I just can imagine, instead of having this kind of like gray, greenish, olivey color. It's just all black. I think it'd be kind of epic, especially since how contrasty a lot of my videos are. But yeah. Alrighty. Right down to the bottom here. CXC. I'm not too sure which one. I think mine is the CXC. That is mine. Oh, are you saying that you also have experienced it being really like, what's the word I'm looking for? Squeaky? Squealy? I don't know. I gotta gift it to me from. Could not recommend it more. Really? Yeah, I think it's about time, I think, too, because I'd love to do, like larger pieces that I have on a separate wheel, and I just keep them on the wheel instead of having to remove them. So we're going to bring this up. We're going to say hello. Become a cylinder. Right? Right down to the bottom. And what do we want to do here? So let's just do one. A little bump here. I think this would be a good one to do this. So it's a little bit thin. So we're going to do a nice little spiral on this one. Down the bottom edge. Push up. I don't know if we really like this one, to be honest. I think we need to draw a little bit more on it. I think my tool is just a little bit too sharp. So I'm just going to go kind of like these little, like, I don't even know what I call them. Like specks, right? Maybe some like grass on this bottom. We have And so I thought those little squiggles kind of looked like little waves, and so I was like, well, I'll put some like imagination of like some kelp towards the bottom, and I have like this like little cute fish here jumping through the water surface. I know it's a little, I don't know, weird, but I feel like this really reminds me of like wood fire pottery stuff, right? I can imagine those sharp things like really catching a lot of like the ash on it. So maybe one or two more. And so it got a little bit thin in the middle area there, and so I tried to catch it. So hope you could see that kind of that quick lift at the very end to try to catch up and thin that out properly at least. So we're gonna go down, up, out, in, nail, nail, out. Going back in from the top down to this corner. Doing the same, just bottom edge here. And that up into this little notch. So you have this little notch. It's kind of cute, right? This is like a cup that you'd bring out and put some like green tea in it or something. Or like maybe a lime, you'd put a lime in here. I kind of hit that edge a little bit. When I mean lime, I'm not crazy. I literally mean just like a squeezed lime. Not just like you said, a unpeeled lime. But like hot lime juice. If you haven't tried it, I'm telling you guys. Some good stuff. Okay. Round off this top. Meet this bottom edge. There we go. Create a little notch. Notch has been created. Get our little wire down, wire wrapped, wire underneath and through to the middle. Stop. Dry your hands off. And get ready to lift this right up off the wheel. We're going to set this down into our little... oh, dang, I hit the edge. Oh well. We'll put the handle on that side. Alrighty. So... we're going to do one more. Should we? No, we're not going to do one more. I think that's going to be... we got to do one more. Fine. It's going to be small, though. Why am I hesitating on doing one more so much? Because we need to finish by making all the handles for all the pieces. We're going to do that also on the wheel here. So, just a little bit. I don't know. Camera B. Close in. out, over, up. Down in the middle. Find that bottom edge, so we're pushing in until they meet. You found the corner, okay? Reestablish that corner, finish the pull. Okay, more water. I'm gonna go out kind of wide. In. Out kind of wide. You can see how quick that makes your little cup. Somebody said, how long have I been doing pottery now? I think for now it's 6 years. It's kind of crazy for me to think about. Yeah, it's about 6 years now. First we gotta lift this up. Little notch. Grab your wire right underneath. Halfway through, drop the wire. Wipe your hands clean. Hold right off, just like that. Okay, dokie. All right, so shelf. The shelf doesn't really show you exactly. I wish there was one that kind of could show you guys all the pots in here. Does that work? So there we go, guys. We got all these ones. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We got 11 handles we have to make now. So when I make the handles off the wheel, how am I actually thinking about the handles? So I'll show you a little example. Camera A. Camera A. So we are going to take, here, camera B, close in. We are going to take a little line of clay from here, bring it out, and then almost like we're making ribbon candy. And then this discard here becomes the handles on the sides of our vessels, right? So you can imagine, you kind of, little handle, right? And so that's been kind of a fun discovery for me recently, is throwing the handles. You can throw a strap handle off the wheel too, that's also possible, but I'm trying to think about it in a little bit more of a different way, as being these almost, I was inspired by when you trim the bottoms of your pots. So that's kind of what we're going to be making. So I got a little bin here. I'll be setting everything inside of. Yeah. Wheel. We start making these, so we have to make 11. So we one thing that I realized about the ones that I already made and are slowly drying right now is that the handles were a little bit too large, so I got to start making them a little bit more narrow. And so you can see I'm just taking this clay off as if I was, almost imagine this as a vessel and you're trimming off this clay over here. And I'm just pulling off a little line of it, right? And so I'm pushing down with my finger until I can see that orange of the wheel head again. Close in. Close in. There we go. So, round this off. And I'm going to try to bring this out as wide as we can. That's really the key here. Bring it out pretty wide. some of that extra clay off there. And get ready. Because what's going to help you actually is to get this thin, to get this rounded off. And to get a little of that inside and outside cleaned up a little bit there. Here we go, guys. You ready? Maybe I should start here so you guys can kind of see it more. So this is going to be one. And do I like this? Alright, look at that. I can't even see. Right? And so these become handles then, right? I think they're just so pretty. And it's using a technique of discard as a technique of creation. So look at that too. So you can see, I mean, just look at some of these. Really like those candy ribbon things. So these become handles. And so that's what I'll do with the rest of this clay until we get to a point where it's too narrow and we can't do that any longer. It's kind of cool today just taking that large chunk. And there's something that's really like mentally rewarding about getting through something, right? So I'm looking at this right now, and it's so much smaller than what it started off. And I can't really even remember the first couple ones, right? And so it really helps me out, like mentally. Look how much I've made so quickly. Look, I got through a whole entire something. So like when I go and I rest my head on the day, like what did I do today? Well, I got through something, right? I know it's kind of, again, a little bit weird, but I think whenever you have little things set up in your day that is a victory, that's a pretty good day. I hate having a day where it ends off and you're like, oh, I lost, I didn't do anything, right? Okay, so here we go. What do we want to do here too? I think we actually got to get this wider. And so watch how this one works now. And start angling it so it cuts underneath. And so it doesn't stack or fold. And then you can get a hole, something for maybe a full length handle, right? But this is another reference to the trees, right? So although I'm not making trees anymore, you know, I discovered this through making the trees. And so I've always thought that's why I really think pottery is one of the, you know, it's cool. It's cool because you almost create a little history. You're creating your own personal history, right? And you get to decide what is linked, what's connected, what is constructed. And so I've always liked to have these little historical events that are in each of the pieces that I kind of only, those who get to make the work, I guess, get to delve in. I guess those who watch it too, maybe you can see some of the little references to things as well, right? But again, and so as that's building up, you're slowly going to be angling this down further. And sometimes if you work with a thinner one of these, you can actually influence that a little bit more. If you have one of the plastic ones, you can cut right underneath of it. So this one's a little bit more stocky, right? But I still imagine that working nicely on something, almost functioning more as like a knob than a handle. And again, we got to keep in mind that we have to make 11 of them. So that means we have to make more than 11 of them. But I always think about it too is like this, right? The throwing part is cool. Throwing is cool, you know? But this, I feel like there's something that's embedded in the process of how they are made, that they're a little bit more random, right? So I get a little bit excited to see how these little things are going to turn out, right? And so why is that fun? Why is that cool? Is because it's almost like a dessert, right? It's like a little gift to yourself at the end of throwing stuff. All right, here we go. All right, another one. We're gonna get another tool here. I'm going to show you what it's like when you use a thin one, and I'm going to show you what it's like when you use a fettling knife. Okay. Why do you cut halfway? To prevent S-cracks? Why do I cut halfway? Oh, through is because as long as I'm spinning, if I get halfway through, then I've cut through the whole thing, right? But there's also another reason is once I pull all the way through with a wire when I'm cutting this top off, I've had one slide off. So if it's on the middle, then I'm in control of when it comes off, rather than when I pull through, sometimes if a little bit of water gets on the wire, it skates off with your wire. So that's why I'm doing that. Sorry I didn't answer you earlier. I actually never have S-cracks. I've never really had the problem of S-cracks on any of my stuff. Let's say that some of my stuff's a little bit thicker, but something that I really try to focus on is how even my pots are. And so I think a lot of times S-cracks will just go away naturally. People will tell you compress, compress, compress. What I think is so much more important than that is actually just making sure your objects are even. Far too often I find that where the foot meets, the edge of a bowl or the rim of a bowl or the rim of a cup, it's a little bit thicker or too thin, and the disparity between those two, especially on the bottom, can result in S-cracks. Alright, so here's our I like the idea that of them being separated like that and only connected through this one little noodle. I feel like that'd be cool on the side of an object. Far Cry 5 stream when? Bro. That's so epic of you to remember. Alright, Far Cry 5 stream, definitely before GTA 6, okay? Oh. A little bit different on this one. I actually kind of like this one. Look at this one. I know it seems a little bit weird right now, but this one has some like crazy potential on for a handle. So this one was created with a fold in and with the fettling knife. So you can see with the fettling knife you can choose to engage or disengage how long or thick you want that to collapse. How much more do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yo, we shouldn't have made that last cup. I can never catch your stream now. Why did you start streaming less frequently? Because I stopped doing my... last year I did the every single day, so I would stream every day and I would record and post because I was making 3 trees every day for a year. So I finished that project, and so I always think it's kind of funny because a lot of the people know me as the tree guy now, but really the trees was just like a one-time year thing, you know? Elements of the trees will always come back, right? But yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do next, you know? So that's kind of what it is. Turn that over. Kind of looks like a seahorse. This is the head of the seahorse. Alrighty. Here we go. So we have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8. So we need 3 more. It's possible. I don't know, I really got used to watching your stream after the workday, so it felt kind of strange spending evenings without your streams. Dang, that makes me so sad that you said that. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, really, I want to do more streaming. I just don't know. You know, last year, I sacrificed a lot to do the streams every day, right? And to record and post every day. Like, I just want to try to find something that's a little bit healthier. It's a little bit difficult for me to talk about. I don't know if I can find the right words, really. But I'm trying to figure stuff out, you know, so I'm planning stuff, so I'll let you guys know when that stuff starts really cruising. Okay, we'll do this one more time. Look at that one, look at this, a nice one. Look at that. I think this one's beautiful. handles. Ah, thank you. New Year's to you as well. Thank you. Okay. Push down. Start bringing this out. Look at this one, guys. Have you ever seen that holiday ribbon candy? If not, look up holiday ribbon candy in Google right now. Doesn't that look like that? Still going for the natural star. I remember the twisty vases. There are a lot of them. I'll show you in a second. I gotta make one more of these. Yeah, natural style is an interesting way to talk about it, because I do think there's something natural about the process. I don't know if there is much about the actual form is referencing nature as much, though. But I do like the process of it. I feel like is very natural. Kind of like that wordage of it, actually. So bring this out to the side. Okay, so I got 11 of those now. So we have handles for each one of the cups. Camera A. Camera A. We have all the cups, so we made 11 things off that. I think it was 12, probably around 12 pounds mound. So 12-pound mound, 11 cup forms, just forms maybe, not cups, and 11 handles to go with it. And I'll show you what they're gonna kind of look like. I finished a couple of them the other day. Somebody remembers the roots. Let me get a close-up of my pants. It's a good. This one's kind of nice. So I'll show you some of them and how they work. Zoom. So you can kind of see how they look like on the objects. There are these little knobs, these weird parts. And so just trying to play with that a little bit more, so you'll see how they kind of work on some of these ones here. So this one right here, this is another one of those bump ones, but you can see there's a little tag of clay that's kind of holding that handle on there. That will get removed later. That's just so when it dries, it can keep its shape, right? And I'll get rid of that. This looks like a 90s commercial. Wait until I get up there. I'll really sell it. Good? Alright guys, so here we got the latest edition of Louis Vuitton cups. Or how do those people sound? Like, I feel like they're dressed a little bit like little posh. Oh, yes. Why, here we have a cup from Pottery Damon. Just lovely new addition to the summer set. Is that how they talk? I don't know. Maybe I'm trying too hard to mimic them. I feel like I'm getting into the mocking territory. But anyway, so this is another one of the twisty ones. Somebody said they're already sold. So funny. That'd actually be such a funny way to sell your work, right? I'll show you one of these one I really think, so you'll see some of them really start to match up with each other really nicely. So look at this one. I just love that it almost looks like it's just sitting on this plate, right? It's really just hanging out. And then I think that the handle here, it curves and it makes sense with the form, right? So you'll start to see that some of them actually work kind of nicely. And those are even more of a surprises. So like the forms were kind of random, but the handles became not as random, right? Random, intentional randomness. I don't know. Baked, intention baked. This one's kind of weird and funky. So I'll show you this one too. Something you'll notice on these ones, I'm trimming. Look at that. You would never believe me to trim, but I actually do know how. And I'd say I'm pretty good at it too. With the ones I was making last year, it wasn't really about that. But these ones are about that, right? Just kind of really like, yeah, a focal point. Yeah, it is kind of like a focal point for the object, right? And I'm just not sure if they feel too separate. Like, part of me wants them to feel like they're growing out of it, but not be as loose, right? Like a controlled looseness, right? Think of like, you ever watch Venom, like the Venom movies? There's like a scene where it's like the symbiote is inside this like very like sturdy capsule, right? That's kind of how I think about these. Is like that little addition is like the symbiote. Or like this like little captured randomness. Here we go. Look at this one. I really like this one a lot. This one, it just makes, it's just chirping at me. This one's chirping. All right, look at it. I really like this one. I do feel like it's chirping. Interesting. You know, there is a like a Soviet cartoon. There's like a lot of the music songs that I think are really interesting. Obviously, I don't know what they're saying in them. You know, I'm assuming some Tom and Jerry-esque thing, but the music is like totally awesome. Like the little like sing-along melodies. I like this one a lot. This one is like electricity when I look at it. The song, I wouldn't be able to tell you how it sounds or the words, but it's kind of like a accordion-esque, like bum 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 ba bum bum. No, dun 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 dun. No. Kind of like a, does that, am I getting anywhere scratching on a potential repressed memory you have on how it sounds? They all kind of look like Cabbage Patch characters. Do you know like the dolls Cabbage Patch Kids? That's kind of what they remind me of. Do I have my maker's mark on it? I don't really do the maker's mark thing. This one's not as electric. I think this one will look good once it's fired, though. Like, once this one's fired, it will look a lot better. So now we're getting into the ones that I don't think really do it for me as much. So this is one. Ribbon dancers, yeah. I could go really into the looseness of the form and do something like really loose. That's what I did on some, but I just... They didn't feel intentional to me. So I didn't like the idea of somebody looking at them and then like thinking that I didn't know what was going on, you know? Some of them I don't mind, but for these ones I wanted them to kind of be more in that realm of believability. Is that from the cartoon with the two people in the red shirts that play on guitar? And they have like really twisty, like yarn hair almost, maybe. A lot of bright colors, like clowns, I think. I know people like to use a lot of those things as samples for music too. But look at this one. So yeah, I kind of like this one too. See, this one's more handle-like, right? Oh, I'm so glad you know it then. I really like some of the music in it. This one's not gonna work, so this one's a little bit sad. So you'll see, he doesn't want to stand up straight. The handle's too heavy. Come on, bro. Chill. I dented the foot when I was moving it. So then you can see this wants to go. So this one will probably be mine. This one will be mine that I keep. This is something kind of just like holding it like this, you know? Not really comfortable, I would say. This one's just way too light. So like, this one I trimmed really thin, so that was my biggest problem with that one, I think. Okay. We did that one. We did not do this one. This one I'm really excited about this one. So this one I think is... This one's actually I think this one's the hottest of the group, right? This one, like, again, it's more than electricity. Like, for me, this one is like a heat radiating off of it. Oh, shit, I just think glaze in this one just looks so good. He said that one's doing its best. Pikachu? Oh, dude, I have a friend who's obsessed with Pikachu. She's actually in one of the early pottery demon, like last spring. I had a friend of mine who came to visit, and she did crocheted while I was throwing on the wheel. I can't remember if I showed this one. I don't think I did show this one. Okay, this one's also a Pikachu one then. But yeah, she loves Pikachu, so I feel like I should get one yellow one and send it to her. Alright, if I like that music, I should listen to... I'll definitely save that. Thank you for... I love little music recommendations on kind of like more niche things that I wouldn't really know about. But I like this one a lot too. Again, this is one of the ones that have a line in it, so I think this one's really nice. I think I expect some of these to just not work out, you know? I think it's making me nervous, but we're gonna leave that alone. This one I don't like. This is the least favorite. I think it was just trying to do too many things, and just looking kind of like dumb. I think glazed will look nice, but yeah. He was a composer for a lot of Soviet cartoons, and also just a cool guy, but very unpopular when he was alive. I wonder if there's any like those YouTube like dissection of somebody's life. There was like a Franz Liszt, like a dissection on his life and his musical compositions. I thought it was just a really interesting thing. That's why I think YouTube is always going to be my favorite, because on YouTube you find the people who are like really obsessed with things that most people aren't obsessed with, and they share that. What a cool thing. Anyway, we'll turn this off now. What else do I want to show you guys? I think that's it for today, actually. Again, we have wheel, camera B. So these are the ones from today. So we threw all these. And then we'll slow dry those and then trim those. And these are our little handles, which oddly, I just think I got some real winners in this one. So you can see on these ones, they're a lot tighter and more smaller. That's the thing that I learned from the last batch, is I wanted them to be a little bit more small, and they didn't represent themselves so loudly on the form. But anyway, so let me get over there. Looks like a sandworm is eating the cup. It's so funny. All right, camera A. Camera A. Ka-chow. Okay. Good evening, chili dogs. Oh, wait. Camera A. I feel like that actually looked cool. Like I jumped through it somehow. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching me do some throwing. I had somebody who posted a comment. I really don't like responding to like comments on videos. I feel so nervous about it, I think is a good way to explain it. I just don't know what if I'm gonna say something, it's in like, you don't get the expression too with it. So sometimes I feel like when I talk online, it's like missing context and I seem a little bit more like intense. So I normally don't do that. But I do read some of them, and somebody recently, they were talking about how I've been posting stuff on the YouTube Shorts. You know, I always am posting. But it was a lot of the water whistles, and I'm still going to be doing water whistles. But they said, I scrolled through your YouTube Shorts, and there was very few videos of you actually like throwing, right? And they made a comment like that. I was like, oh, what? Like, that's the only reason I do this thing, I think, is because like the throwing is the thing that's like most bearable to me. I don't like doing most of the other things. So the fact that my own channel wasn't reflecting my interests a little bit, well, that was a little bit of a problem. So I want to do more posting of the pots. So we'll do that. I'll be doing more of that stuff. And what I did today, I think it's actually enjoyable to just create randomness together. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. All the best, and strong mentality. Oh, it didn't play.
With odorless paint thinner. And I have a screen in the bottom of this can so we can scrub the bristles against the screen, and the solid material sort of settle to the bottom, keeping the paint thinner relatively clean. I will shake it off and then just beat the devil out of it.